On prend aussi deux, une application classique pour la sieste. On en a des, on en a 300 enfin.
Test. There's a dream now. Test. Čujem se sve što ga zapravo. Test. 6. Kako muzičan? 7. Pokazivač. Ne znam zašto mi je pregrasta za mikro. Gdje sam ja jako? Test. Test. Pero ovo je najglasnije što mogu. Mogu ja još glasnije ako treba. I na struju i na baterije. Dobro je, čujemo se. Ako je za film dovoljno, ja mislim da jeste. Odlično. Good. Well, good evening and welcome. First of all, I'll give this presentation in English, and I suppose everybody is fine with English language because we do have international guests today with us. Yeah, so we are fine with that. Okay, good. Very warm welcome. On behalf of Startup 3 family, you will be hearing a very interesting story tonight from our side. What is our project and initiative all about? And later on you will have the opportunity to listen to several panelists, our dear colleagues, coming from different organizations, from different European countries, presenting what are the values that we will be giving and how their organizations actually are providing value to innovative startups, SMEs, and other high-tech and ICT communities. My name is Mladen Radeščić and I'm originally from Novi Sad. I'm a university professor in business and finance here at the University of Novi Sad. But besides that, I'm a proud member of Innosense company's team, one of the partners at the Startup 3 project. And a special thanks to Innosense colleagues who have highly contributed in having this event today in Novi Sad. Special thanks goes to Business Incubator Novi Sad, a place for innovations in Novi Sad, and many thanks for having us here tonight. Many thanks for Startup 3 partners coming from 5 European countries that are also present tonight. Many thanks to you, to the audience. Many thanks to the corporate representatives. We do have several corporations with us tonight. And I do hope that this will be a very interesting story for you, very inspiring story, and that in the end of the day, you will be willing to join us in a very innovative path that we have prepared to you, that European Commission via Horizon 2020 Framework Program for Research and Innovation has granted us this particular project, which is a 2-year project on building up innovative communities around Europe. Since I'm a university professor, I can speak for ages, but I will do my best to keep it as short as possible in order to have very interesting panel discussion later on. So as you can see here, our mojo is Connect, Innovate and Grow. So Startup 3 is one of the recently granted projects within Horizon 2020 Research Framework under the pillar of Startup for Europe and Innovation Radar. That's one of the most, I would say, agile and innovative European initiatives that is supporting innovative communities across all H2020 countries in order to deep dive into specific support methodologies for innovative communities, namely for startups, spin-offs, SMEs, etc. Together with our colleagues from France, from Latvia, from Slovenia, and from Greece, we have been awarded and we are given this opportunity by the Commission to accelerate the most innovative startups, ideas across Europe within our, we hope, very interesting and very dynamic acceleration program. So what is Startup 3 all about? Why startups? Well, it's obvious. Why 3? Because this 3 goes to up. We want to uptake, upgrade, and upscale businesses of the beneficiaries that will be joining our community. So practically, these are our values that we will be offering across 2 years time span. So we want to build and facilitate an open collaborative system, not only between SMEs themselves from different regions and different countries. Some of them are more developed according to the average innovation scoreboard of the European Commission. Some of them are less developed, but nevertheless, it is all about connection. Then we want to connect those startups and SMEs with corporates. We will be creating a very specific corporate pool of different companies all around Europe that will be having an opportunity to meet our winners, to communicate with them, and to potentially arrange some business deals and agreements with them. When it comes to specific sectors that we want to tackle, that we want to target, we are talking about deep technology. So we are talking about the research-fueled initiatives. We are talking about ICT innovative solutions that are applicable across all industrial sectors, which means that we are completely sector agnostic. If you have a specific idea that can be applied for any particular industrial vertical, you are more than welcome to apply for our open call. And last but not the least, we will foster cross-sector and cross-border collaboration. We do have a vast majority of our partners from the Startup 3 consortium do have quite an experience when it comes to facilitating cross-border and cross-sector collaboration. Our consortium leader, which is a cluster from France, Paul SES from South France, is also a coordinator of another initiative that has a very similar activities. We as a company have participated in similar activities, so we do have a good track record in this particular sense, and we do hope that we will, to those who have to join us, pass some of the most important aspects. So this is our ecosystem that we will build, that we have already started to build, and this presentation and panel discussion tonight is one of the aspects of this particular set of activities. Of course, startups and SMEs are our primary focus, alongside with corporates. So we would see those two groups of stakeholders as the most important for the success of our initiative, but also we will be connecting our beneficiaries with different accelerators across Europe, with different investors. We do already have, as I spoke this morning with our colleagues, who will be providing the core essence of our acceleration program. We already have some 100 plus or even 150 plus investors from different parts of Europe present already in the platform that will be used for the acceleration purposes. Of course, authorities and public bodies, but we will be doing with our partners who have expertise, one national center from Greece. We will be trying to give you some inside information about public procurement on the European level, how it works, how you can benefit out of it as a small player, as a startup, as a company, in order to join these potential initiatives. And last but not the least, since many of our partners are coming from Digital Innovation Hubs arena, we will be connecting stakeholders with Digital Innovation Hubs. That's a very important initiative of the European Commission. Many clusters, many organizations across Europe have joined this initiative, and this is a very good opportunity for those who join us and who participate in our acceleration program to get in touch with, I would say, game changers in Europe when it comes to digital technologies. What do we bring? We bring, as I said, a three-step acceleration program. We do bring uptake, upgrade, and upscale opportunities. And it is a very dynamic, our activities will be lasting for 2 years, but our acceleration program per se will be lasting for 12 months. It will have 3 stages, and during those 3 stages, we will be providing both technical and business support services to our beneficiaries. So what do we offer to you as an innovator, as a startup, as an SME? Is actually a set of value propositions. First of all, to be guided from the industry experts. So we do have, as I said previously, a pool of corporates who are actually in need for sophisticated and disruptive solutions. We do have companies who have expressed their key performance areas and their main pain points to be tackled. So they are those players, those big players that do have a capacity to absorb different innovative solutions. If you want me to translate it, those are the guys with money, so they can pay a lot of stuff. and they need to pay to someone. So those someones could be people from smaller entities who are very agile, very fast, and who can bring solutions to the market in a very fast way. So practically what we aim as Startup 3 is to become your market maker in connecting to your future clients and customers. Of course, attend different business seminars. We will be organizing a portfolio of a very intense service provisions, most of them focused on business aspects, but for those who are interested in deep technologies, we will provide some horizontal technical coaching sessions and training sessions, so this will be also from our side provided to the entities. Of course, network with corporate representatives. You will all who pass in the I would say first and later stages of our acceleration program will have the opportunity to meet with our corporates. We will be helping you in developing a business plan with corporate community. This is very important because, as we learned from our partners this morning, each of the corporates from our corporate pool will have the opportunity to pick and select particular winners of our open call, to follow them closely, to collaborate and to communicate to them basically on a daily, on a weekly level. And of course, access to targeted investors. In the first stage of our open call, our selection methodology is quite unique, quite untypical for European funding arena. But when it comes to later stages, we will have investors involved in selecting the most promising solutions. So as we said, values for startups and SMEs and innovators, we do have a portfolio of value propositions for our corporations. So we will provide them with the networking opportunity with deep tech innovators. So they are very keen and very eager to learn about possibilities they can get from those innovative small players. Collaborate with innovative companies, with other peers, with other members of corporate pool, and of course involve innovation into business, because what we have learned from our previous iterations and meetings is that companies do establish recently more and more very sophisticated innovation departments. They do strive to actually capture innovation spirit around them, since they are big, not that fast. It's very interesting for them to meet with small scale players. So this is our pipeline, this is our timeline of activities, how we will be conducting it in the upcoming months. So the first stage of our program is called IDEA, and we are welcoming applications starting from February 20th, 2020, when our open call will be launched. Then we are giving a 2 months time window until 20th of April to individuals, researchers, startup, SMEs to apply. And the application process is very simple. You will be asked to film a 2-minute video pitch, either in English language or in your local language with subtitles in English. You will have to answer to 3 particular criteria that are given in our guideline for applicants. And later on, from I would say late April until late May, you will participate in a very innovative so-called peer-to-peer evaluation process, meaning that applicants at the same time act as evaluators. So we want community to tell us who are the top of the class participants. We want community to tell us whom we should invite in order to further accelerate and to enter our comprehensive 3-stage acceleration process. I will get into details a bit later, but let me just first give you an overall overview. Then we start with the first phase. We call it Grow, or as our colleagues from OLAP, Innovative Startup from France, call it Best Potential. We are selecting 25 winners who will be entering this stage, and it will be lasting for 3 months, and a very sophisticated set of services is expecting those 25 winners. But this very important note at this particular point is that in case an individual or team of individuals enter our top 25 list, we will kindly ask them to incorporate, because by the rules of the program, we could support startups, SMEs, legal entities. So we suppose that the incorporation process across all European countries takes quite a small amount of time, so that could be easily performed. But of course, all the details will be explained in a guideline for applicants document that will be available in our startup3.eu website approximately in the very first days of February. Then the second phase is called Boost, or ideation to product. That's the longest phase. It lasts for 6 months, and from 25 we are decreasing the number to 10. So we are inviting the most promising 10 startups and SMEs, now startups and SMEs, we are not talking about individuals anymore, to join us to continue with our acceleration program, and even more in-depth service provision is planned for those 10 players, those 10 participants. And last and definitely not the least is so-called market phase, or product to market as we call it in our internal language. It will be lasting for 3 months. And from 10 we are downsizing to 5. So we are bringing top 5 from all the groups that have entered our acceleration program. And we are actually preparing them for very first contracts, for I would say solid success in business terms, conducting some business agreements with corporates or with other clients, taking some investments, etc., etc. So this is practically the values that each and every phase is giving, from 25 to 10 and then finally to 5. This is practically supporting innovators to challenge their ideas. Later on in the second stage, we are building MVP, minimum viable product. In case you are more advanced at this particular level, you do have other needs than, doing the baby steps when it comes to starting up. That's not a problem. We do have a very diverse set of services that you can pick and select from those that are most interesting for you. For example, you are only interested in collaborating with corporations that we have in our pool of corporates. Fine with us, no problemo, you can do it easily. And last but not the least, 5, we aim to build very solid partnerships with those 5 ultimate winners that will actually be the most successful success stories that we will offer to the European community. This is us. We are coming from 5 very interesting European ecosystems. So first of all, we do have our coordinators, Pôle SES, a digital cluster from southern France. Together with them, one of their members is HolaUp, that's an innovative company providing the majority of the services that I have just explained. Then we have ITC cluster from Slovenia, which is also, as Pôle SES's Digital Innovation Hub, mapped on the European Digital Innovation Hub's map. Then we move a bit more to east, then we come to Novi Sad. Obviously we are from Novi Sad and we are representing this as a partner from Serbia. Then we go up north to Latvia. We have Latvian ITC cluster, ICT cluster with us, which is also Digital Innovation Hub. So again, we do have access to Baltic innovative communities via them. And last and definitely not the least, we go down to beautiful Athens, to Greece, where we have 2 entities in our partnership. That's Agenso, very innovative company and spin-off from Agricultural University of Athens. And last and definitely not the least is IKT, something that I will never learn how to pronounce in Greek, but they will always forgive me for that. It's National Documentation Center. It's one of the most, I would say, it's a public organization that supports innovative communities. They are members of very big networks such as Enterprise Europe Network and many others that are supporting businesses on European scale. On top of everything, we do plan several interesting events to take place. We plan 3 ecosystem discovery missions. Our clusters in France, in Slovenia, and in Latvia will be hosting those in order to introduce guests coming from different European regions with their local innovation ecosystem. And collocated with those events, we are proposing hackathons or innovation challenges. So those who are willing to practice more technical aspects, those who are willing to pitch in front of us as a team, are more than welcome to join those events. Then we will have 2 cluster corporate assemblies. Those are big scale, high level events where we expect corporations and clusters and digital innovation hubs to join. Those will be taking place in France and in Greece. Sometimes in 2020 and late 2020 and early 2021, where we will be selecting actually from 25 to 10 and from 10 to 5. We will still see who will have the privilege to select from 25 to 10 and from 10 to 5, whether it will be France or Greece, but this is still to be decided. And of course, we do have numerous mini-mission events where we go in different corners of Europe and where we present this as we presented tonight. And this is, I would say, the intro presentation for the community of Novi Sad, because the project has started recently, actually on the 1st of January this year. So many thanks for this attention. I try to keep it as short as possible. So I'm very much welcoming your questions when it comes to whatever aspects you are interested in. And later on, after a 5 minutes break, we will have a panel discussion with our guests, and you will still be seeing my beautiful face because I will be moderating the session. But anyways, before we proceed to that, please shoot with your questions and we will be happily answering to those. You have all the Startup 3 family present tonight from France, Latvia, Slovenia and Greece. So whatever question you have, and this is, I would say, one of the rare opportunities that all of us will be present at the same time presenting the open call and presenting the Startup 3 values. So whatever question you have, I'm certain that someone from our group will have the proper answer. Anybody? Anything? Well, it always, you know, I'm always asking myself, was it too boring? Was it that clear? Or was it something in between? But of course, you will have the opportunity to learn more about especially about the 3-stage acceleration program during the panel discussion. That's why I have not deep dived into this particular aspect. You're so kind. Come on.
I can ask you a question if you want me to. Will you be covering all the expenses for the companies? And secondly, since this is a Horizon 2020 project, I'm assuming that you are non-profit and won't be expecting anything in return.
This is a very legitimate question, and since I'm teaching finance, I hope that I can answer to the financial aspect of the question. When it comes to exploiting the exploitable assets, I can also answer to that. Maybe my colleagues could support me in the answers. Well, I'm a finance guy. So when you ask me if you will be covering my costs, I roll back the question to you and ask you what particular costs you have in mind.
Well, out of my mind, just like traveling to the conferences and mentors and stuff like that.
Well, of course. The market value of the services that we will be providing to companies is huge. So the Commission has given us the mandate and the funding to provide it. So first of all, this is to be understood by not only this community but all the others. When it comes to particular funding, in this particular call of the European Commission, which is ICT 33, Startup for Europe Growth, blah, 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 I don't want to bore you with these boring details. There was not envisaged that startups and SMEs will be receiving cash support by entities who are entering into projects. Meaning that we are not offering equity-free or any funding, we are offering a portfolio of services. So there is no funding involved per se, like we send to your bank account some thousands of euros, although I suppose people like that aspect, right? But what is very important to highlight here is that those events will be voluntarily based, so those communities willing to attend are more than welcome to attend. There will be only one mandatory event when we select from 25 to 10 and from 10 to 5. In order for you to be selected, you have to be present there, you have to pitch your solution, and you have to pitch it in front of corporates and in front of investors. Some of our lovely faces might be in the panel as well, but when it comes to money, yes, we will be giving you the opportunity to present your novel solution in front of the people who are seeking their funding destinations. So that's for sure. When it comes to travel reimbursement, if that was the question about, attending conferences and stuff, we are now discussing with our project officer in Brussels, a person from the European Commission responsible for our activities, whether there will be a possibility to provide a small-scale funding, at least to those 25 who are entering possibility to go to 10, and later on those 10 who are entering possibility to go to 5, in order to ease, cost side of your business in order to be present. Last but not the least, we will be offering a set of services via a very interesting platform which is called Founder Studio. It is an online-based business acceleration tool with a specific methodology that has been developed by our partners from HOLAP, which is a French company that has its core business in supporting startups and SMEs to grow and to scale. So a vast majority of services will be in fact delivered via that particular platform. Of course, during our events, those events that I have just described, we will be offering some face-to-face coaching sessions, so those interested parties are more than welcome to join. And when it comes to funding from the European Commission, when it comes to exploiting results that are to be after this particular project, I could make an analogy to poker. Have you ever played the poker? No. But no problem. It works like you have to chip in, you have to give something to the table in order to potentially, win the house, win the table, win the stakes present there. So, in order to bring this to a life story, to real life, we have all contributed with a vast amount of knowledge, a vast amount of different, I would say, assets we have in our business, such as platforms, such as training, etc., etc. Of course, during the period of the project lifetime, which is 2020 and 2021, we are not allowed to make any commercial activities and to generate any income out of those activities, and we do not want to do that. Otherwise, we are messing with the European Commission, and we don't want to do that. Yeah, we don't want to mess with them. But of course, later on, the things that we will be developing throughout the project are things to be discussed among partners and to be arranged in a specific exploitation plan that we will jointly develop. But I hope that you were intending to ask me what will happen with my solution. Your solution stays with you. As simple as that. Whatever you develop, with support of our business and technology acceleration program, it stays with you. Whatever business deal you make with the investors, the corporates, it stays with you. It's bilaterally arranged, and we are not, again, analogy to poker, chipping in, and we are not asking you for a loyalty or share of revenue or whatever. Unless you want to join our, let's say, common exploitation stuff, which is not envisaged but could be developed out of, I would say, simple interest of all participants inside the story. I hope this at least partially answers the question.
You answered it properly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to add something, in a certain manner, we will cover your costs. I mean, when you are in the early stage phases of creating a startup, you need money. For what? Not to buy food. You need money to buy consultants, to buy contents, etc. And believe me, through that program, you will have access to very high value content and mentoring, etc. for free. So in a certain manner, we will cover your costs. without taking any equity.
No equity will be taken. For free for you, but not free for the, in general, because European Commission has granted us funding to do it.
Short question, big answer, so.
Maybe it's probably me, right? Okay, many more. Okay, let me do some, quick tests. How many startups do we have here? How many SMEs do we have here? Okay. How many researchers do we have here? Okay, yeah. How many people are willing to start up in next 6 months or in next 12 months? So few, right? Okay, good. I suppose in ICT, in deep tech or innovative technologies? Am I right on that? Okay, good. How many students do we have here? Some. Okay. Good. Well, if there are no further questions, we will make a very short 5 minutes break in order to set the table, and then we will have 4 panelists with us, so you can ask them different questions. They will tell you what is their perspective of connecting small and big players, and what is their perspective on supporting innovative communities. Thanks again for your patience, and see you very soon. These days with me.
Yes, let's just turn it off for theory. Sedeti vam skroz desno. Znači, kako ćemo postići ćemo stop malo na ovu stranu zbog kamere, da baš je dobro.
Dobro, ja ću ići sa ove strane.
Vi ćete biti tu na čošku, vi ste na
Dobro.
Znači,
Sedim ovde, dobro.
4 stolice idu ovako, a oni će 2 mikrofona da menjaju.
Ok, imaju 3 ovde pitanje.
Nema to problema, to je već ide s vama, znači vi imate blizu mikrofona. Molim da samo čuju da mislim da se ne čuje. Slobodno kažete privatno. To ne odavde, no ne ne.
Nije u pevački,
Ovo može da ostane kod. Ostaje ovdje. Bravo.
Yes, please, please. There is okay, they are coming. So I suppose that should be either like that. You can be no, one. Guys, come on. I cannot start without you.
Hi.
Zoya and Dusan. This is Guillaume.
Nice to meet you.
You will get the opportunity to listen about each other in the panel round. And this is Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc, I'm deeply sorry for interrupting. Let me introduce you to other panelists. This is Zoya. And this is Dusan. So you are the three panelists, and I will very briefly, before we start, tell you how I imagine our three rounds. So I will ask you three rounds of questions. They will be the same, but they will be answered from different angles. The first round is personal touch. They will say more about you as a professional. Just briefly, personal touch so the audience can understand who is in front of them. Then at the second round will be what does your organization do and how do you provide value to innovative communities, like connecting small and big players, etc. So in general, what does your company do, your cluster, your hub, your initiative, etc. And last but not least, how do you see your organization involved in startups? So for you guys, it will be very easy to answer because you are in every part of it, but for you, I suppose you can, yeah, it's easy, you can I would say, explain how you see it based on this presentation you just heard, how organizations can be involved, how they can contribute. For example, in the next 2 weeks we will be collecting expressions of interest from corporates, etc. Good, please take your seat. No, it's just, I'd like to see you in the middle. Yeah, I'd like to see you in the middle. This side. Okay, good. 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 Many thanks for staying with us. Usually after breaks people go, but I suppose you will be very happy to hear what our dear panelists have to share with us. Before we start, I will of course introduce you to our dear guests who will be sharing their experiences, but of course they will have the opportunity to present themselves, their organizations, and how they are involved in supporting innovative communities. I will start with you. Zoya is coming from Digital Serbia initiative. You will listen more about who is member, who are the founders of the initiative, what do they do, and how they plan to reshape the digital communities of Serbia. Then we have Dusan. Dusan is coming from ICT Hub in Belgrade. ICT Hub is one of the most supporting organizations for innovative startups and communities in our country. So we will be listening how you connect small and big players. This is also a very interesting aspect. Then I move to my dear Startup 3 colleagues. We have Guillaume from Pôle SES, a digital cluster from France. He will be sharing with you how a cluster landscape in Europe looks like and how digital innovation hubs are progressing. Yes. And last and definitely not the least, Jean-Luc from Hola Up, innovative startup. Actually the creator of the methodology that will be provided to our accelerated startups and SMEs. And this panel is planned to be very, I would say, flexible. We will have 3 rounds of questions to our dear guests. And of course, feel free to later on ask whatever you find interesting to learn from our dear guests. So without any further ado, I'd kindly ask you, all of you guys, to tell us more about you. So we would like to see the personal touch. Who are the people in front of this great audience, and how do you see yourself as a professional? How was your, I would say, professional path? Zoya, once again, please start with you.
Is it because I'm the youngest? Okay, I'm Zoya. In terms of my professional development, so I am one of the co-founders of Started. I guess some of the audience know it. We have a space here in Novi Sad, but basically it's a network of now 8 co-working spaces and startup hubs, one of the first startup support organizations in the country. And we were as well co-founders of Digital Serbia initiative, so I'm in this initiative since its founding. And now I'm working at the initiative as a director for the startup ecosystem development. So obviously when we talk about my professional development, it's a lot around startups and tech, and how can we leverage tech and especially products and add even more value to the ICT services in Serbia to leverage and to grow Serbian economy in general, and how to embed ourselves into the global and European networks. And another topic which people also know me for, and Dusan just recently mentioned, is this position of women in tech, because there's not a lot of us, so we try to be more present.
And we fully endorse that as much as possible. Great, many thanks. Dusan, now we jump to you.
No, yes.
No. They are, hosts together with us.
Okay, so good evening everyone from my side, Dusan Vukanovic. I'm here representing ICT Hub. You have heard about ICT Hub, I guess, yes. So me personally, actually, I'm switching careers each 5 to 7 years. I started in international development donor organization supporting democratization and building of institutions in early 2000s. Then I had my entrepreneurial journey in co-founding a consultancy company in human resources management. Then since 2013-14 I'm into and around this tech community in Belgrade and Serbia, and like from 2015 in ICT Hub. I will tell more about ICT Hub, I guess, in next round of questions, really like what we are actually doing. In the meantime, I co-founded two startups like in the area of human resources management, but my whole career is all about development and people. Really, I believe, okay, the topic tonight is deep tech, but like without people and without like kind of blank sheet of paper, like we cannot do much. So I'll just kind of turn back. And the whole point of like underlying all these careers is I think that it's going to be much faster than 5 to 7 years. So like we'll talk more about that.
Perfect.
So host from France.
Yes, Guillaume, please.
Yes. Hello.
So Guillaume Roux from SES Cluster. So about my personal life, if I come back to 2006, I started as mladen in the finance business. Actually, I was working in trading, trading with large corporates in banks, especially in French banks, and then in commodities trading in oil. I've done that for a couple of years in the beginning of my career, and I thought that it was absolutely an unethical business, and I was not meant for that. So I quit, and after 1 year backpacking tour in Australia and New Zealand, doing some fruit picking and exploring things, I got back to studies, and I studied European politics. So
complex topic,
very complex, and I thought it was more ethical. So I went to a company called Inno in France, which is very similar to Innocence, by the way, and doing European project management and building European project for SMEs, for corporates. And then I studied a lot about clusters in this consultancy work. I work with clusters, and I had the chance to get a job at Pôle SES, which was very close to this company. It's based in Sofia Antipolis, which is a big science park in the south of France with many startups and many big corporates also in the tech field. And so I've been working for the last 7 years in Pôle SES, specializing in international business. So at the beginning I was starting to develop international relations with clusters. So this led to me to be here. And for the last couple of years we were quite successful in European projects. So I was dedicating mainly to managing big European projects such as the one you mentioned just before, IoT for Industry, which is a big Innosup project, by the way. So we project involving startups and large corporates, and now starting with this startup free project, which is very exciting. So that was in the last 12 years of my life in in 2 minutes.
So from finance to fruit picking and to European politics.
Perfect.
That's quite a
Perfectly.
journey. Yeah. Good. Many thanks. Jean-Luc.
Thank you. First of all, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very glad to be here with my colleagues. I am Jean-Luc Frétard. I'm the co-founder of Rollup, which is in fact a startup studio for some of you who are interested by innovation and how to create prolific ventures. Well, just an advice, look at all the literatures concerning startup studios. Just a way to make it a very efficient way to create venture or to fail fast, you know the expression. Okay, before creating with my colleagues and co-founders of Rollup, before creating Rollup, I was an innovation director for Fortune 500 groups, US-based or French big groups, in order to create a new project or new venture inside big corporates. So by doing that, we initiate 15 years ago methodology with systematic steps, etc. And along the year after year, we have fine-tuned this methodology, and now we have something very strong in terms of concrete action, systematic action, and we have built kind of software to help any project to be in the machine and to go step by step, have to go or stop, because it's very important. Probably we'll have a discussion for that just after. So keep in mind, I'm a very, very old innovator. We used to say a seasoned innovator, and well, my colleagues are younger, so it's good news.
In average, you are fine, right?
And Rollup is based in Sofia Antipolis, like Paul SCS. I was formerly the board member of the SCS cluster.
So you were supervising what they do, right?
Yes.
From a very high
Making decision.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Good, perfect, thanks. Well, many thanks, guys, for this intro. And what I'm very eager to learn is actually, and I suppose our colleagues here, is when we understand the complexities behind your organizations, it is very interesting to find out what exactly your organizations do when it comes to supporting innovative communities, when it comes to supporting innovators, startups, SMEs, those who are willing to deep dive into something that is disruptive, something that could change the landscape of some interesting potential clients like corporates, etc. So if you can briefly explain how your organization tackled that, what is your best practice, and what are, I would say, the main success stories that you have encountered in the last 5 or 10 years. Guillaume, I see that you are holding a mic, so please just start with it.
Okay, so Paul SCS, start with Paul SCS. It's an ICT cluster based in the south of France. 2 offices, one in Sofia Antipolis, which is close to Nice, and one close to Marseille. So it's a regional cluster. We have about 300 members in the ICT field, but to be more precise, in microelectronics, IoT, big data, and artificial intelligence, and finally digital security. So we tackle those four pillars, and all the companies of the companies of course, and research centers and other type of sector are looking for specific markets such as Industry 4.0, such as smart cities, smart health, or mobility. So this is the identity of the cluster, and how we are helping innovation and startups. It's simple. We are supporting them from the idea to the market, which means, for instance, the idea is organizing thematic workshops on those specific technologies I mentioned to help companies address technology challenge by putting them together in the same room, especially research with industry, and helping them to do projects together by making them meet, but more than that, by helping them securizing public funds. This is the core idea of the cluster, because we know a lot about how to securize, how to channel those funds, either from regional source. We have a lot of calls from the region, but also from national source. So in France, there is a policy called Pôle de compétitivité, and SCS is a Pôle de compétitivité, and we have been able to secure a lot of funding dedicated to R&D for the members of our cluster, and of course from European funding. And this is my personal specialty, and this is what we are doing in Startup Free. So it's European funding.
Any success stories in connecting small and big players?
Yeah, we had in the past, for instance, we had a special business deal with Telecom Italia. Telecom Italia is the Italian telecom operator, and they were especially interested in contactless technologies or security technologies because they have there are a lot of use cases in Italy, because Italy was at the forefront of mobile telecom, and you know, Italians are very early users of mobile telecom, so Italians were very interested in using services that our members of our cluster were providing. So we had a deal with them that lasted for more than 2 years, and we have presented them 50 innovative startups, and now out of these 50 startups in contactless technologies and in security, in digital security, they have selected three or four, and they have implemented a proof of concept. So
those startups were mainly your members, yeah, or around your communities?
They were our members, and we have also worked with a partner cluster in France. So we have expanded the opportunity to work with Telecom Italia to other clusters. First in France, so with a telecom cluster in Brittany, in Grenoble, and in Paris, because these are the 4 hubs of ICT hubs in France. And we have also enlarged those opportunities for clusters outside France. So we had some companies from Belgium coming down to Sophia Antipolis and present their products to Telecom Italia. We have stopped this initiative because they had found enough innovative ideas, and they had started to work with the startups. But we have had other big companies working with us, like GND. It's a big German company, a big German company in security business, and Thales and La Poste, and so we have replicated the same concepts with several large companies, and we are still looking for other large companies that would be interested in the technologies of our ecosystem to do that. I think Telecom Italia was a really great success, and I hope we will have a similar success in Startup Free.
Okay, perfect. Many thanks. Zoya, I refer to you again. We all know, at least most of us from Serbia, about the Digital Serbia initiative and its goals, and that it is very high-level initiative that has been founded with the goal to support digitization of Serbian ecosystem as such. Where are we at the moment? How fast the initiative is growing? What are the success stories in, going out there explaining to small-scale innovators, small business entities, that it is doable, regardless of the fact whether we connect them with our players internally or on the global scale?
Okay, so just to give a small zoom out before prior, so currently Digital Serbia Initiative is basically a private membership-based organization, and our goal is not, we like to think of ourselves that it's not the goal to have as many members as possible, but actually to pick members and keep it small. So currently we have, I think, 32 members. We are proud that ICT Hub is a member, and for example, in terms of like startup ecosystem, when we talk about it, we have ICT Hub, Startit, and Impact Hub, which are leading startup hubs in the country, which are our members, and that's on a small example of what we are actually trying to do, and that is enhance collaboration between different players, which is not that existing in the ecosystem itself. For example, last year we did this collaboration with Startup Genome, which is an organization from San Francisco, which is assessing startup ecosystems globally. And I was so depressed because I'm like for a long time part of the startup community that I realized that we have something that they call local connectedness, the amount of how many, how often startup founders talk with each other, share, give advice and share their knowledge and experience, and then how much other advisors with academia, with corporates, and that is way below the global average. So that's something that we also as initiative are trying to do, but we are not working almost never directly with startups. So we are working with startup support organizations, with our members. So we tend like have half of our members are tech companies, other half are non-tech, like, and that's something that we chose to have because we think that in future every company will be a tech company, and we want to have like a healthy balance of bringing and growing this digital ecosystem, how we call it. In terms of what is happening and what are the things that we are driving. So on one side, we think that there is a lot of cooperation and activities that our member companies are doing, and we also try to support them as much as possible with connecting to the startup ecosystem and to the educational system, and how we can contribute to create this digital economy which is based on what knowledge we have, and that's why we heavily invest in that segment as well. So for example, recently we launched something that's called Master 4.0 program that is now starting at four different programs in 3 different cities around Serbia, with I think 13 different faculties cooperating. And what is interesting is that it's also cooperation between foreign universities, Serbian universities, and almost 70 companies. And that's something that we always try to showcase, that it's not just academia or not just informal education or not just companies teaching people, but actually this collaboration, which I definitely mention a few more times. And in terms of, for example, startup ecosystems, the things that we are trying to cover is another problem that we've known is low early stage funding for Serbian startups. For example, it's 9 times lower than the European average. And this is something that we are trying to fix in different ways. One is like, how can we motivate our members, which are big corporates, which have some amounts of money with, investing in collaboration with startups? How can we see if they are interested to invest, how to invest? Then we are also, thanks to our, have created our own angel group, which consists of our members and how they can contribute to startups. Then we are also helping local startup and VC funds raise more money so they can put it in. And then we are also working with the government, trying to advocate for them, also creating programs which will support startup investments. So for example, but there's a lot of those different stuff, but basically we don't work directly with startups, but they're actually trying to support them from above.
I suppose advocating to the government is quite a complex process.
Yes.
But nevertheless, when it comes to members, many of your members are big entities, in fact. So
Yes.
rather larger organizations. So when you meet, do they share their experience in how they are collaborating with newbies, with small-scale companies?
Yes.
Is there any progress in this respect?
So there is, I think, like right now in Serbia, it's also like almost two worlds. Dusan can also talk more about it, because what ICT Hub is doing is connecting those two worlds in a very good way. But I still think that most of the corporates in Serbia are interested in innovating, are interested in doing something around digital transformation, are aware about startups. But then there is like a huge divide on how they can communicate with startups, where they go to meet startups, and then there is a bunch of, I would say, anecdotal knowledge that they have about startups. So for example, they meet two startups which are out of university, two students, don't really know all the questions about business development, and then they tend to come and say, oh, startups in Serbia are not good. And that's something that we are trying to change, and we believe that, again, coordinating those touch points is very important, and that's where I think also Startup 3 is important, because corporates have different standards. The way startup people and corporate people talk to each other, it's also quite different. And often you have in startups, most people are tech, so they talk about their product, and they don't talk a lot about business or how to sell it. And people in corporates want to hear this other part, and then they maybe sometimes don't understand the tech segment. So it's always good to have, at least in the beginning, an intermediary and somebody who does the pre-selection, the explanations, and kind of does the hand holding. Yeah. So, but I think this is really important, because once somebody comes up, for example, from the corporate world with the belief that there is no serious startups in Serbia, then it affects the whole ecosystem. Then, for example, Dusan has to talk 10 times more to prove that there is something, because you're starting with a negative, and I think we need to have more ways how to help them in that.
Perfect, many thanks. Well, since you called Dusan, I will ask him to continue in the same way. So I know that you are doing your best in the last few years to support, bridging the gap between small guys and big guys. So your department, among other activities, is involved in, communicating between small and big, trying them to sit at the same table and to actually float the innovation around. So what is the status quo, what's going on, and how ICT Hub is doing its best to support it?
Status quo is not sustainable. Yes, we are these interpreters and like facilitators, mediators between gods from the Olympus corporations and these small kind of like startups, and like really there is a huge gap. About ICT Hub, we recently celebrated the 5th birthday, and in terms of the corporations, we are kind of still baby on lifespan of corporations. This is still maybe taller or like a little bit more than baby bunny. But in terms of the Serbian local tech ecosystem, we are kind of seniors, like following startup a couple of years later, and like great initiatives here in Novi Sad from Georgian Incubator, Impact Hub. So like really like the whole ecosystem of tech startups and tech entrepreneurship actually is being developed in the last 6, 7, 8 years. So I would know better. We as ICT Hub started, we now position as a kind of micro ecosystem of under the umbrella of innovation and entrepreneurship, really bringing together technology startups, corporations, investors, individuals, different communities. But our story was kind of like we started 5 years ago as a donor-supported incubator for technology startups, and we really have like each year was a different. And like it's like next year's we still do not know what is going to be our focus, and that's the name of the game today. But we pivoted from tech incubator for tech startups to kind of like our focus today is corporate innovation, really working together with corporations to help them have more strategic approach to innovation, develop products and services in a more startup way, and really change their DNA and inject kind of like more of the startup-ish entrepreneurial DNA in these corporations. Maybe it's easier to explain what we do, so like maybe you could put these kind of little boxes. So first of all, we have co-working space in Belgrade with some 100 tenants, and we have the policy of open source for all the kind of communities. So like I think we have 4 to 5 events on average each day, really bringing data science, AI, machine learning, blockchain, health tech, ecotech, whatever you name it. So we really are very proud to really all good initiatives that really spread the good kind of word of like what Zoya was mentioning about how to prepare for this digital economy. Of course, we have some of our events, but this is kind of this like co-working and community element that we are kind of like can put label hub on our kind of forehead. Then the next hat that we are wearing is okay. The simple one is we initiated and fundraised 1 million euros for the first local Serbian kind of like privately owned fund that invests in startups. We have 7 to 8 private individuals who are investors who fundraised 1 million euros 2 years ago, 3 years ago actually. And so far, not that many investments. I think like 1 million is not such a kind of like high profile fund, but we invested in maybe 10 to 12 startups like in these 3 years. Our average ticket is 30 to 50K for exchange of 1 digit equity of startups. So like ICT Hub Venture, you can just go to our website and really we have an open call for for applications. And actually that could be a value added to the questions of who is going to fund this. So we really tend to and we really believe that a lot of the startups that can like provide solutions to corporates, we believe that this is kind of the kind of like profile and photo robot of local startups, not the kids. Okay, like with all due respect, but there is not going to be like new Facebook or like I don't know, new Instagram. It's more going to be some concrete solutions to the corporate world. So like we can be partners on that as well. Exactly. So like really, as you roll out, kind of, and we are not kind of like limited to only Serbia. We are open to the region and like even beyond. So like yes, co-working and community investment fund, and then like. Around this investment fund, we also like participate with all other players, really helping like the general kind of startup kind of ecosystems, like young startups here in Serbia. 2 years ago, we just decided that there are like too many initiatives like Startup Academy, Impact Hub, Startup Center, like in Novi Sad as well. So we just kind of pulled from this kind of like very early stage acceleration programs, and then we were like more dedicated to one-on-one support to concrete startups, and like additional value and multiplier would be our fund. And the core business, again, coming back to for us, is this corporate innovation, and this is what I've been leading the last 4 years. So starting from and actually like our first lab and like the first big client was Societe Generale Bank had actually like had the kind of 4.5 years ago, just kind of this vision that like there is something in this startup world, like some kind of like new energy, new know-how. The problem with corporation in Serbia, and like this is maybe opening the next round of questions. Actually, we have
it's fine. Just
but the
this
problem
is very
is,
interesting part.
That most of them consider innovation big thing, very important, top priority, and like you would go like in every corporation, you would see the key values. It's on the walls, like big kind of letters of like innovation and all other kind of like values that they kind of stand behind. But then when you dig deeper and see there is no strategy, there is no people, there is no structure, there is no budgets even, there is no partnerships, there is no external kind of like ecosystem. So that's coming back to the beginning, our role in ICT Hub, that we really support them having more strategic approach to innovation, like through like innovation strategies, through kind of some kind of roadmaps of like what is important, navigating them through the startup ecosystem, because otherwise they would be kind of these elephants in the like porcelain shop, like hey, we came to play with you little startups, how can we play, and like then what Zoya mentioned, that's then the problem, but they do not want to play with us. And again, like some concrete activities are really employing all this kind of lean startup, agile, design thinking methodologies, tools, customer development into the kind of DNA and really like routine procedures of corporations. But first and foremost, it's really changing the mindset of people in corporations to really widen their horizons, because change is like outside of the organization is happening very rapidly, and like if you are not catching up, you are pretty much on the road to the graveyard.
Well, it might seem that it is blackish, but I would call it rather dark gray. But I suppose there's some shining examples. There are some cases where some synergy happened, right? To a certain extent. Do you have some insight on what was the, I would say, successful mix of ingredients for such things to happen? What are those specific examples, regardless of the fact how rural they might seem in the first sight?
Yes, I mean now even 5 years later, it's very difficult to we can pinpoint a couple of really success stories. But then I would just come back again to the maybe stereotype of kind of like of corporations declaring that yes, we are open to cooperate with you, little startups. Our doors are open, but the whole problem is that when you enter this door, there is no one to meet and greet you in this corridor, and that's actually very important part of what we do. It's no-brainer that it's easier to establish these collaborations in service-oriented businesses, in banks and telcos and all these, which are actually already within very close to some digital business models. And we have example, and actually in this very room we have 4 years ago, 3 years ago, Pauša, which is a little startup that we connected with Societe Generale Bank, that even before having their product, they provided some value to the very concrete segment of micro entrepreneurs like IT, Paušalci in Serbia. Kind of they provided service. Bank recognized that and saw that as a new channel, new value for its customers. Then team solvers like data science guys who are really doing great job with Vip Mobile. Lot of examples, but I just want to pinpoint the kind of importance of and that is why the deep tech comes into the play. And now I think the time is now. We work very closely with NIS, Petroleum Industry of Serbia, on really they have a huge kind of expense in this exploration here in Vojvodina, and data science, AI play really very important role, because 1 degree left or right when you
means a lot of money.
Dig, it's really literally 1 million euros. Also all this kind of yes, some fresh example. We also work with Roche pharmaceutical company, and I really see a lot of bio things bio startups and this genome profiling. Again, data science and AI in oncology. So pretty much for us, every day was difficult and different and difficult in a way, but in a good way.
Okay, then I suppose in the next round we will come back to the concept how we can, explain to corporates to open their doors. So perhaps this initiative might be interesting for them to join.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Perfect. Many thanks, Jean-Luc. Wow. I mean, your core business is connecting small and big ones, right? Among other things. So, what do you do? How do you do it? And why you are proud of your service provision?
In fact, the answer is no. Sorry for that. We at OLAP have a strong experience on how big groups and big corporates are living. And believe me, big corporates do not innovate, never, because they are impeached to innovate for several reasons. Even if you have a big sponsorship with the CEO, even if the CEO is your father, inside the corporate we will not create any innovation, because a company, have this in mind, a company have an execution plan. So they have objectives from January to December. Innovation is a long-term or mid-term process. So it's the first problem. The second one is no one is deciding anything concerning innovation, or no one or too many people. I mean, you have the CEO, you have the salesperson who are speaking, oh well, the market is mine, so no innovation in this company without me. or what, but you are just a salesperson. So you are the marketing guys who are explaining the product, new product, it's us. Okay, so innovation department, I don't know. Okay, then you are the R&D or innovation department doing several things, but generally they have not enough power in the company. So at the end of the big organization, you have the business units, those who are the money and the plans, etc. So the decision is everywhere. So that's the reason why in big groups, it's not just my opinion, but we have a lot of cases for that. Innovation in big groups is theatrical. When I say theatrical, it's, for instance, going to the CES in Las Vegas for a big group without any innovation. But they are there up to the TV show, etc., but no innovation. And that is the purpose. It's a very good news for you. If you want to create some startups, it's a very big opportunity to create new products for those corporates. But alone, it's just impossible to reach the right guy. So the best way, believe me or not, but the best way is to be autonomous if you have a good idea and a good team, to create something that is running on the market. Then the process will change and corporates will come to see you. Okay, so we can we try through the Startup Free program to help accelerating just this part of the business. At the beginning, you need an idea, but sorry, the second bad news, idea is nothing. Forget it. What is important is what we call effectuation. So, in order to, what was the discussion this afternoon, in order to have in mind the secret sauce to create a good startups, start analysis the failure and the cause of failure. You know, it's a statistic. In Sierra in New York, Los Angeles, or Hong Kong, 9 out of 10 startups die. Okay, and generally 2 or 3 vegetates. That is worse. That is worse. It's better to fail and to create something new. But 1 out of 10. And if we look at the reasons, to be short, we can just exchange with you to be concrete the main reasons. The first one, if I ask you what is the first reason where startups dies, it's not money. First one is, you can call it whatever you want, but it's the product market fit. You have a product, but if you have no market, forget it. Okay, so what is very important is your product. Then, obviously, the second one is when startups runs out of cash. It's not a problem of the amount of cash. It's the problem of how you use it. Okay, and you all know the lean approach, etc. If you are in the tech teams or business teams, if you have an idea, create very shortly a product, and my friend Charles can tell you probably more precisely and more accurately. Don't do the main error to try to make the best product. We don't mind. Even if we don't have the product, but just the idea and how to show your idea and your product on the market, even if the product is not strong, etc., do this. By doing this, it's a way to manage the cost, energy, etc. Do not try to make the best products. In fact, it's the main reason and for startups, because tech people always want to make the perfect product, and it's a big mistake. Just try the market, then adjust it, and then you have, for instance, to give you some example, you can launch a product in just weeks. Okay, in the digital area. We are not speaking about new military weapons or I don't know, but in the digital area, you can create very shortly, and I'm sure you are able to do that, and to put it on the market. And look what the market will answer you. And what is the best good news here and everywhere? From Novi Sad or San Francisco or elsewhere, you can create the same product with the same tools. Okay, now digital approach and the way you can create a new product on the internet is quite easy. So that's my advice. Start, focus on your product. Then, if we go further, deeper in the reason why startups, 9 out of 10, unfortunately die, is mainly around the team. And team is very important. So we used to understand, to listen to this topic where team is important. What is important is to have a full skills team, but it's not enough. You have some soft skills to manage, because it is the main points that investors, or even corporate, main investors are looking for. And around you, if you are already a team with tech and maybe some market experience, etc., it's the biggest asset of your company. Okay, because if you fail fast, you try another, then you try another. But the team, by doing that, is stronger and stronger, and everyone will take profit of the previous experience, and one day we will succeed and reach the market. And that is the start point of the startup. A team which is growing, and a product and a feedback from the market. Okay? Everything else is bullshit. Listen to me. Everything else is bullshit. We created a startup studio for that reason in France. We have worked with hundreds of startups coming to us and trying to work with the big groups where we were working for, and they all say to us, well, we are in an incubator, etc., etc. When we, a startup who go to an incubator or an accelerator, etc., etc., the first thing is to give some advice around finance, finance, accounting, lawyer. Wow, it's not the problem. We will have to look at those topics after. Just focus on how to sell. How to sell. And no, fortunately, in France, no incubator is well structured to give the secret sauce to sell. So you have to be by different aspects autonomous in the selling process. Again, all the rest is bullshit at this stage.
Yeah. This is very important. You can mention just now. I mean, and this is what I want to start with the final round. Is like, and I'll start with you since you have opened the discussion. How do we plan, very briefly, how do we plan to change that, or at least to inspire innovators and startups to grasp this via our Startup 3 activities? Very briefly.
Yeah.
The catering is waiting for us.
Just by focusing on that topics. If tomorrow a startup will come to Holab and to have a discussion, of course we'll have a look at the product, then we'll have the use of our tools. What is the market in Europe and in the world? Okay, it is fully covered. Our advice is stop it. Your product seems to be very good, but except if you have a specific features for a country, but if the market is well covered, forget it and go to a new idea or something very close or different. But immediately we focus on the business and the market. We do not ask, what is your business plan? No business plan. I have no clients. So first, the market, competitor, and what is different. What we call disruption in backward.
So we will prioritize those aspects in our program.
Absolutely.
Guillaume, your 2 cents on this.
My 2 cents.
What will we do?
Yeah, what I wanted to say is this Startup 3, we insisted in the beginning, is a collaboration between ecosystems, and I think it's an opportunity for you as startuppers or innovators or ideas people to use this network and to take the best out of it. The network is there to of course to bring you to support you in the startup uptake, upgrade, upscale, whatever you name it, phases. But it's also, I think the networking is very important. This is why we're here. We're here to meet you. You will not grow alone. So you need connections in your country. You need connection in Europe. You will need connection in the world. Startup 3 is a very good example of collaboration between clusters, DIH, whatever you name them. At the end, we are networking. We are hubs we are clusters, so we are connected to startups, we are connected to large corporates, to investors, everywhere in Europe, and this multiplicates the opportunities for you to find customers, to find investors. This is Startup 3, but there are thousands of other opportunities. The European Commission the European Union and the states and the regions are very proactive in multiplying the initiatives to help you to find investors, to find customers, to find partners, whatever. So use them. Really come and see us and apply to this call, apply to all the calls, apply to all the opportunities that all this public support is providing. I think this was the main message I wanted to say. Startup 3, of course, this is where we are here for Startup 3, but if you miss Startup 3 and if you still want to get involved in networking and want to grow your business or whatever, use clusters, use all the tools that you see that are available from the European Commission and clusters and so on.
Perfect, thanks. So coming to you, Zoya, how do you see yourself or your organization involved in this lovely journey of ours?
Well, first of all, we'd love to get our members, especially corporates, on board and part of the network that will be able to meet the startups you do, so that I already said that we will be willing to try and coordinate as much as of them to be on board. And then I also see I mentioned collaboration, so it's time for my final use of that word. But I really think that what we are trying to do is map the whole process. A startup in Serbia is the whole journey that a startup takes, and we are trying to connect those dots on the journey a little better. So in the sense of where are the startups that might be interested and that might be at the level of working with corporates, where they can come from. So we would like to facilitate and help you and support you even more with even maybe some media connections in there, but maybe mainly with the startup support organizations who are already working with these early stage startups, hubs, and things like that. But then also afterwards, what's the next phase? Are there some other collaborations with startups? Do they need some additional mentoring for successful Serbian startups, which are also our members? Nordius, Seven Bridges, InfoStudent, and Trilateral from Novi Sad. And and lastly, how can we connect them with investors and even present them better if they are going to find some global outreach? So basically, we want to help you with the pipeline and to make sure that the startups that end with your program, that they have also where next to go in the startup
that they are equipped with all these values
exactly.
and skills.
And then don't stay standing alone, and that you are not alone in trying to help them around.
Yeah. Good, perfect, thanks. Dušane, you have been in mentorships even from the previous framework program of the European Commission, from the long time ago FP7 arena. So how do you see yourself in our activities? What we can do in order to be better in our plans?
Okay, no, I mean, things evolve, so like, yes, it's now the new level of the game, and congratulations to Mladen for all these great things, not only on these projects, but in the last couple of years that you're doing, having all these multiple hats on your head, which is great, and we all of us have the same kind of feeling and share the same pain. We just try to be practical in terms of like ICT Hub as an organization. First of all, we can open the doors of some corporations. Maybe in our portfolio we have some 20 big corporations in Serbia, in the region, from various industries that we already opened and kind of prepared.
You cooked them a bit.
We prepared this touch point, but this is very critical. Usually, I mean, not usually, the pattern is there has to be a C-level visionary individual in company that is going to take part of the risk with you if you're doing anything with that corporation. It's cannot be happening the way that you have the great idea. There are no romantic stories, like, believe me. It has to be one individual who will recognize the opportunity and really vouch for you to push you. We can help identify companies and identify these kind of individuals, and there are more and more of these kind of people. I mean, they are like,
which is good news.
This is good news, and like this is happening, of course, slower than we would like, but it's happening. The second one is be aware, kind of like being startup. Your goal is to build a scalable product that really can have digital business model. And corporation can be your best friend at the beginning, but it can be a burden for you if you switch too much based on like what are their demands. So they can be good for testing the product, acquiring first customers, some promotion. They do not try like risk, also like be aware of that as well. Very difficult to get investment from them, but again, like coming back, they can help you test the product, introduce you to some of the partners, test the product within that company. So that is kind of the best value. And then you probably need to say bye-bye and thank you. And really, if you're pursuing something more global, which is I think the name of this game, I mean, this is a very short kind of period. So like be aware. And this is a two-way street. They are going to get some exposure and like some opportunity to be early tester and really like to change their DNA in that regard. And the third maybe tip is really like at the end of the day, gatekeepers are guys from this legal department, and like you really have to always have this filter of they are devil's advocates, and they are really the most difficult to break. How companies now going to embed that in their system? So like really think ahead and really like try to navigate through that. But again, like ICT Hub as an organization is really our critical mission is to help corporations be more open and like innovate the startups do. So that's why we kind of open them from all this, like from top down and all bottom up, and we are here to be partners for these great kind of projects such as Startup Tree.
Many thanks, guys.
Thank
Many
you.
thanks for the panel, and many thanks to you for being such a patient listeners. So if there are any questions to our dear panelists, please feel free to shoot. If not, we do have some cozy catering over there, so we can network a bit, meet each other, and of course, we will be welcoming you in our activities. Yes, please.
If you have some good story about ecology or environment protection or some startup.
I can actually, I mean, like, I was just thinking about, like, who is the corporation in most need for these kind of projects, and I would say the state of Serbia. These days, we are very aware of, but unfortunately, we also know like, how fast this is going to happen.
They are not prepared.
They are not there yet, yes. But, I mean, these days, we are really all aware of this kind of, like, air pollution problem that is kind of, like, technology is just, like, pinning it out. And I just want to like to bring one kind of like emerging kind of community, which is called Ecotech Serbia, Ecotech Serbia, like, or really like all these new solutions to the problems of environmental protection and all these different things. And they are really organizing great meetups in ICT Hub and really bringing some great examples of small startups. And they are kind of becoming a hub for a very, very critical problem, which is kind of like environment protection. No, maybe Zoe, you would know maybe some of the concrete examples. Smart Cat is actually sitting here, and they are data science in energy efficiency.
But there is now Serbia is part of 2 EU programs, which are also giving small. One is giving grants to green tech. So it's called, if somebody is in that area, it's called. No, that's first one is Climate Kick, and they give grants, I think, up to 30,000 euros, and there is, I think, every year 6 or 7 startups receive those grants. And then there is another one, which is Inno Energy, which is more startups who are innovating the energy field, but there is a lot of interconnection. I think both of those programs now are organized by Startit, so they're here in Novi Sad, so you can get more info, and I think both of them will be more active in the next month or 2. So the selection is now February and March, so it's a good time for that. Smart Cat was Inno Energy finalist, for example. I think they even got some money.
So there are some frameworks, there are really great opportunities, but not yet some success stories that we can be all proud of. But I think the process is there, and like the setup is good for all of you interested in really tackling this very important challenge.
French cases that are interesting to share?
The question was if we have large corporates or
on energy efficiency, right?
Ecology, green energy,
green tech.
We have in our membership we have Schneider Electric, who's managing smart.
They're very big.
Very popular.
Smart grids, devices, networks, whatever. In the field of energy management. So this is one idea of large corporate that could be. I mean, in our field we are an ICT cluster, so we have mainly ICT or solution providers for markets. So Schneider is one solution provider for the energy management market, and this is the one I think about.
Jean-Luc, have you ever had the case to
So just to add on this, like Schneider Electric is present here in Serbia, and they're also clients of ours, and they are very open to this really like energy efficiency initiative. So we can really connect.
Especially the Belgrade part.
Yeah, sales guys, not the IT guys here.
Have you had the case of collaborating with a startup in these technologies? Not in particular.
I'm afraid not,
No.
but it's of course a very high potential sector, because everybody is looking for answer to climate change, savings, etc. So the question is, what are you working on? Technology, software, etc. So we have to.
Everybody talking but not looking.
Yeah, you apply, you got selected if you are good enough, and then you enter the acceleration program.
Thank you for
This is the idea. Well, many thanks once again. Are there any other questions? If not, we kindly invite you to.
And we'll be around. Okay.
Yeah, to network, and there is also a nice catering waiting for us. Many thanks for being with us today.